Hello and a very warm welcome back to the garden, and in this video I want to go over what I think is the number one priority we should have as gardeners, and how focusing on growing one particular thing will generate amazing results across our garden. What is this one thing? Well, let me give you a clue. It's to do with this hoodie, and to grow better vegetables, it isn't complicated rocket science, it's simple soil science, and having an understanding that the health of the soil has a direct influence on the health of our vegetable garden. And I'll be chatting more about this hoodie a little later on in the video. As you know, the way I garden is hugely inspired by the principles and design systems that come from permaculture, and I'm a firm believer in looking at what nature does well and how we can use those examples to our advantage when it comes to growing our own food. And any thriving ecosystem has one thing in common, and that is diversity. In my pest control video, I mentioned that one of the key ingredients to preventing problems of pests and diseases in the garden is through diversity, because it's a lot harder for an issue to take hold and you're more likely to have a lot of good guys to help defend as well. Now recently I watched a documentary called Kiss the Ground, and it offered a lot of hope, and there was one part which really struck a chord with me, and it was a farmer, Gabe Brown I believe, and I'm just going to paraphrase here. But he said that he thinks of himself primarily as a soil farmer, and his focus is on the soil, and any food that comes off that is a byproduct. And he's a firm believer that the healthier the soil, the better quality the food is going to be that's coming off that very ground. I believe that this perfectly summarises the attitude that anyone who is interested in producing sustainable food should have. Because if we focus on creating a healthier soil that is vibrant in life, then as a mere side effect, we're going to grow better crops, and these crops are going to be more nutrient dense. It's like us as humans when it comes to eating food, we have a choice. If we choose a healthy option, we get better nutrients, we feel better, and as a result, our immune systems are going to strengthen. And the same applies to soil. If we treat it right and respect it, the soil will become healthier. And as a direct result of that is building up the immunity and the resilience of our garden. I'm just gonna carry on clearing this bed and get it ready for winter. And as I'm doing this, I just want to draw your attention to the hoodie that I'm wearing. And today I'm actually launching an online store of clothing. We've got 5 really exciting designs, all based and inspired around gardening and permaculture. And the great thing about these is that they're made out of 100% organic cotton. And what's even better is that they're made from factories powered by renewable energy. So if you'd like to get your hands on something like this, or choose a design that you really like, head on over to hewitches.tmill.com and also enjoy plastic-free packaging and international delivery. If we're looking at improving the health of our soil, I believe there are 3 fundamentals that need to be followed. The first one is the idea of organic matter. So organic matter is simply organic material, for example, plant residue that is beginning to decay. And this is high in carbon. And soil carbon is really important. Organic carbon is crucial because what it does, it adds structure to the soil, which means that you have better aeration, better water retention, less erosion, and less nutrient loss. But also the carbon that you get from organic matter is what microorganisms use for energy to then break down the rest of the organic matter and release the nutrients which become plant available. You can use things such as chopped up plant materials, decomposed organic manure, and of course homemade compost to add organic matter to the ground. But the important thing is to remember what happens in nature. In a forest, when the leaves fall from the trees, they apply a covering over the top surface of the soil, and that's exactly what you want to do. So I did a video a few weeks ago which is about how to prepare your garden for winter, your raised bed specifically. And in that I showed the method of how I add organic matter, and also why it's really important to do things like keep the roots of plants in the soil and not pull it out. And you want to aim for a covering of around 2 to 5 centimeters or 1 to 2 inches of decomposed organic matter over your soil every year. The second fundamental to help build and grow a healthier soil is diversity in planting. As I've said many times, nature thrives from diversity. Diversity equals abundance. So we can take this idea from nature and apply it to our gardens by growing lots of different things in a relatively small space. And what this does is you've got a lot of organic matter in terms of different root structures. You can then either chop and lightly drop, or you can harvest this organic material at the end of the season to then put on your compost, to then put back onto the soil, and it also helps reduce pest and disease issues. And if you want to find out different planting methods that you can use that does just this, first you start with the collaboration video I did with Vera Hertink about how to start growing using polycultures. And the third fundamental is minimal soil disturbance. So if I was using traditional techniques of gardening where I'd put over a load of compost and then I kind of fork it in or dig it in, what it actually does is destroy the structure of the soil, and it can destroy the biology within the soil. This is why large-scale horticultural producers that plough often need to rely on fertilizers to provide the nutrients for the plants, because there's no biology in the soil or in the ground that does that job. Digging the soil can also release carbon and cause soil erosion, which is when you get lots of rain and the nutrients run off and off goes the fertility, which is why it's really unsustainable to buy vegetables that are produced on a large scale where the farmer will come along and plough it before seeding and often plough it afterwards or dig it up and be very destructive. Instead, you want to disturb the ground as little as possible to help the soil keep its fantastic but fragile structure to help you grow healthier crops. So those are the three fundamentals that we need to build and maintain a healthy soil. And that should be our number one priority as gardeners, because if we can look after the soil, then the soil will look after our crops. Also, don't forget to get yourself a hoodie or a sweater, because the weather is definitely getting cooler. And I look forward to seeing you in another video soon.